Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of your friendly neighborhood feedback and friends on ILBC TV, the international live beat channel. My name is Alicia, and this is Nathaniel Wyvern on the small screen to the left.
Tiny Nathaniel Wyvern, hello.
Hailing from beautiful Aberdeen, Scotland. And we have special guest today, Crowdrock. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Hilly.
Great to have you. Can you tell the uninformed, which is, a lot of the people on the show have never seen you before. Can you tell them a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, what your musical journey is?
Sure. I am a grown man that likes to cause shenanigans with audio, I guess. So I think my adventure in music started in 2011 when I worked with a guy named Ben Samples. And got signed to Moody, or the tune got picked up, a remix got picked up by Moody. Before that, I got on one of Bass Nectar's mixtapes, He Who Shall Not Be Named. Unfortunately for everyone, he was what I kind of always knew he was. Mm-hmm. But I'm happy that it came out and that people now know that he was not such a straight up guy.
Definitely.
Yeah, as a father of daughters, it's something I spent a lot of time thinking about. I didn't know we'd get this deep this quick.
How do you balance being a dad with music? That's definitely a question I always want to know. Balance
like perfection I think is a word that's made up and doesn't exist. I think that it's one of those, another one of those words that like there is no balance in life. Your to-do list is never done. It's one of those things where you make time for the things that are important to you.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true. So.
And thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So happy to have everyone. We have a lot of special guests. What's up, Chase Jobson? Chase is another great person, regular and frequent collaborator, right? Tell me a little bit about your work with Chase. We all have loved it. We've heard it on the show before, actually.
Oh, cool. Hi, Chase. Is he in the chat right now?
Yes, he's in the chat.
He's in the Discord chat, at least.
I wish
I see him in Twitch as well.
Digital hug to my homie Chase. Neon Cities was a project that we started working on, I think, when we looked at the files, it was like 2011, 2012, and 2018 we started releasing material together, and I think we got about 12 or 15 tunes out there.
Nice.
Chill wave, synth wave, waves, all the waves.
Yeah,
little wave.
We should definitely play one. Lately, what we've been doing is closing the show with the guests' music, so maybe we can do that again this week. This week, we have a very crazy start to our day. We have some, what I believe, hard style from our good old friend Disco Dave. Did Disco Dave say anything about this track?
An attempt at a serious hard house track.
A serious hard house? Is that possible? Okay, I'll shut up.
Because I'm bad about that sometimes.
All right, some pretty high energy stuff from Disco Dave to start off. I'm going to let our guest go first. How do you feel about that?
I can't hear you at all.
You can't hear me at all.
Yeah, we did a total mute.
That's
Alright.
weird.
Sorry about that. I guess
back.
the double muting doesn't work. Go ahead. Let's let our guest go first.
Oh yeah. Dave, first of all, thank you so much for sharing tunes with us. I really appreciate you getting yourself out there and being willing to get some feedback on stuff. Generally speaking, this is outside of stuff that I usually listen to. Like, I remember the first generation of hard house, like Tidy Tracks, the UK hard house was like Tidy Tracks. John Bishop was like a gay DJ from San Diego, I think, that was playing a lot of it on the western coast of the US. And then, that was always like combined with what was like kind of being known as Chicago hard house that Bad Boy Bill was representing, kind of the at the vanguard of for white guys. And then I always kind of sided on the Chicago side, but happy to give feedback on this one. So I think there's a high string note at about 106, and it's just kind of held, and I think that would the high string note would be a good place to enter in some variation. Who is Michael Jackson's producer?
There was a few of them.
The best one. Quincy
Rick
Jones.
Rubin?
Quincy Jones. Quincy.
I can never remember anything.
Yeah, Quincy. The documentary with Quincy Jones is just incredible, and he calls it in the documentary on him ear candy, and you want to kind of keep
ear candy.
You want to keep the candy coming, keep the sugar rush going, especially with something as pumpy and as sweet as this tune. So I think the kind of high string note that I heard around 106, that would, writing something besides just the high held string note was my kind of first thought of where I would go next. I think that the drop at around 2 minutes, I think it comes a little late. I probably would have put the drop, 8 bars, 16 bars probably before that. But I think the drop that I heard around 2 minutes was a really well designed drop. I think I kept engaged through that drop, and I think the build was also really well designed as well. So I think overall a pretty good effort, and I think that it could be a finished tune. 8 minutes is a chunker, though. I see the disco guys going at 8 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, his name is Disco Dave, so maybe he's like left over from the disco era. But yeah, I don't know, I'm not like in the hardstyle scene, so.
I'm not either.
I know that the psytrance scene, like, which may be similar in kind of the hypnosis vibe, I know that they tend to go longer, but I guess for me, I keep hearing it going in the background, and it seems like it's just turning over. It's like it's not like an 8-minute track, it's like a YouTube where it's like this going on for 8 minutes straight, and somebody has just looped it. So I would say, if you want this to be an 8-minute track, I want to hear like more. I want to hear a little bit more of that ear candy. This is a drinking game on our show, by the way, of how many times we say ear candy. So I want to hear a little bit more. I mean, what do you think, Natty? I don't know that you're the biggest hardstyle expert, but I'm sure, as always, you have something to say.
I mean, I'm definitely in agreement here. You're coming out with a little bit of a roast there for sure. With this is the YouTube extension mix. But I mean, it's also a question, what is a serious hard house track? Because this one is in such a major key and so hype that I'm not sure serious is the right word here. I mean, it's like you want to take it seriously, but at the same time, like, why can't you just be happy making music that makes people laugh a bit and smile a bit? Like, that's fine. And I think, right now it's just, maybe ease off on the sirens a bit, because air horns, because you've kind of overdone it at this point in the track, and we need something fresh.
You don't like feeling like you're about to get arrested? Why not?
I still love air horns, but in like bass stuff. I still use them. I don't use them a lot, like 2.
Yeah.
Maybe max out at like 5.
Let us know in the chat, to air horn or not to air horn. What do you think these days?
It might be the hard style version of a cowbell.
Oh boy.
Also, if the title of the tune is Getting Horny, like find, I always say, my always thought is that if you have a narrative about a song, then go 100% on it. You know what I mean? If the song's about getting horny, get some porn clips in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like get some. Yeah. I mean,
everyone, Natty is making free clips today. Natty, can you give us a few more examples? We don't quite get it. What other sounds would we hear?
Oh God. I don't actually watch porn though. That's the.
Okay.
I don't either. Okay, that's a lie.
I'm not even lying there.
Oh, Natty, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's nothing to be ashamed of.
It's nothing to be ashamed of, whether you watch it, whether you don't watch it.
Yeah.
We here at Feedback and Friends accept all kinds of people.
But there's always careless whisper.
There's always careless whisper. That's my favorite genre. So Samuel Seefeld is up next. Did Samuel have something to tell us?
Yes. Now I will be timestamping him because he's in Australia and it's like 3 a.m. right now.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fair. So hi to Australians. We love you.
Hello, Australia.
Jalen's in as JP.
Interesting. Says he's 13 years old and he's been producing for 8 months. So this is a fairly early track for someone who might be really, really cool. Over time if they keep going. So keep going.
Yes.
Have fun with this.
Keep at it.
Please do. All right, Samuel, you are up next with a tune called Hexia Trance. All right, Samuel Seefeld. I'm so impressed, honestly.
Sammy?
Like 8 months in, this is your first track. I mean, usually the advice I want to give people at that point is just keep doing it. Like, don't even worry about the nuances of mixing like this and doing this, and like just enjoy yourself. But I mean, that being said, the one thing that I would dive into is learning EQ. I think that's the first thing to play with. Just really like learn about the frequencies of sound and like why things work a certain way, what happens when you cut off lows, what happens when you cut off highs, and then start playing with EQ to just balance different layers of your track, because you can't have too much of the same thing. And that's really what the journey of EQ is about, is kind of balancing your mix. But like I said, take that with a grain of salt, because I think you just need to make like 10 more tracks, 20 more tracks. Keep going, you know?
Please don't stop.
Please don't stop.
So, yeah. First, I think those pads have a wonderful tone and texture to them. I think that Sam, you've done a wonderful job with those kind of chord, low, mid, kind of piano, maybe Rhodes, kind of chords in there. I think those are wonderful, and I think you've done a really wonderful job at holding the vibe. And that especially with those 3 to 4 note high note progressions, that like those do a wonderful job of keeping me in the same emotional space. I think you've done a wonderful job at kind of developing the idea of a slow build in intensity that that I see in a lot of dance music, whether that be progressive or whether that be trance or whether that be house, is that I think you're doing a really good job at like watching your energetics. You have to. It's always up to the individual whether you want a big build and a big drop or you don't. Like I like writing a lot without drops, without big builds. I would the fourth piece of information that I'd kind of point you towards, Sam, is that I would also think about sound. I think Illy's right in that, like, yeah, play with your EQs a lot. Do a high pass, do a low pass, do a band pass, do reductive EQing, do additive EQing. Where you push up a certain frequency, and so put an EQ on every channel and just start playing with them, and really saying what frequency range do I want to bring out with this? What frequency range do I want to bring out here? And then always I'm watching arrangement stuff, so I'd probably drop out before you did it 2 minutes. I'd probably drop at like 1:30, minute 30 seconds.
Natty, do you have some tips for people just starting out? Where's Natty?
Oh, do we mute us again?
No, we're not muted. He's muted. Oh,
there he is.
Natty.
Are you working?
Natty. Yes, now it's working.
Oh.
Weird.
Your audio is still not working.
Or what?
Oh.
Yeah, this is.
I see what's happening.
We're muted.
Sorry, no, we're not. We're only muted to Natty. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
We're trying this in-person thing to avoid feedback loops, and instead Natty's getting cut off from the rest of civilization.
It's fine. I mean, I heard all your interesting comments.
It's actually good. Yes. Do you have tips for people just starting out, Natty?
I mean, for dance music, obviously you've got to focus on keeping a consistent groove. Ooh, there's a doubling effect there, but anyway, the other thing with something like this, like once you have a solid kick snare pattern or a kick and a clap or something like that really basic, then just start having fun with your hats and with cowbells and shakers and all sorts of things. Just try things. Don't matter if it doesn't work, kind of thing. Just have fun with it, but see how you can sculpt around that really rigid house pattern of kick, snare, kick, clap, kick, snare, kick, clap, whatever thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, but with emphasis on your offbeats. And, just have a lot of fun with it, because there's no point if you're not having fun. And you'll learn a lot about what you like. I think that's the big thing about developing as a producer and an artist in any medium. It's not just learning the skills, it's learning about what those skills you actually like, Apparently you're muted now.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, still working. Go. Say that again. Sorry. We'll figure this out.
I'm just so impressed by that level of production at 13 and 8 months, and that Sam's already found a good job of like finding where he wants to be vibe wise, and that in the chunky housey space, and keeping a slow and understanding vibe and keeping a vibe. I think that he did a great job there.
I think that's the key, and that's something you can't really teach. You can teach all the techniques, but just
Right.
to hold that listener. I mean, some of the greatest, like one of my favorite songs of all time is Archangel by Burial. And I listened to it again the other day, and it's like the mix is like kind of purposely murky, and there's like so many things about it that are
So
wrong.
murky.
But it's
Yeah.
like it does not leave your head. It makes your spine tingle. Like it's just got that feeling. So
Yeah.
that is the most important thing. For sure. All right, frequency response. You are up. Anything specific that they wanted to know, Natty?
Is Jalen in the chat now
No.
too? Is Jalen
Anything
hanging?
they might
I don't
have.
see him yet. Anything that we might have. All right, I will mute us. I will try to unmute myself correctly. That's going to be my goal for the next track. All right, some trancing it out with a frequency response. Now, I'm not from being the point of view of a trance person, just on a technical thing. There was a little bit of sharpness I heard in like some of the percussion that was just sort of like ringing the whole time, like one of the hats or something, or rides or whatever it was. It was just kind of piercing.
6 to 9 dB down on the perks.
Yeah, exactly. So I think pulling those down and then also like doing something to increase the presence of the kick, because the kick in this genre is like everything, and it's sort of coming off as a little flabby. I think it could be tightened a little bit and then pushed forward, maybe with some saturation or some compression. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I think I think pulling back the release or the sustain on the kick is not a bad idea. It was already fairly tight kick. I think maybe even some variation in kicks or layering kicks is another option too.
Layering is a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Or pitching a little bit. Sometimes I can feel really good about a kick if it's just 3 steps up or down. In that kick's instance, I would probably drop it a couple of steps, and get it a little lower. I mean, people often forget that percussive elements are still tonal.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought the arrangement wise, it was in a really good spot. I think that kind of I think maybe it was a little overwritten in the perks and the pads too. So I think kind of alternating between some of the kind of pad elements I kind of heard in there, or the ARPed elements I heard in there, and alternating between those two and getting cleaner in the frequency spectrum too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
where I
totally.
felt like pad and kind of washy elements were sitting in the same frequency space.
Agreed. Natty, do you like trance? Wait, I forgot that I was an asshole and I didn't mute myself for Natty. Sorry. Natty, do you like trance? I think he's
Natty.
muted now. We lost
He's
him.
muted?
Oh no, he's muted now.
Oh no.
On his side.
There we
There
go.
we go.
Okay, cool.
This
It's
time
fine.
it wasn't my
Okay.
fault. This time it
That
wasn't
wasn't
my
your
fault.
fault that time. Feedback and muted yourselves. Anyway, I think you made a solid go at the trancey vibes, but I mean, I also feel like it could have maybe gone very techno in places. Like that bass could have ramped up and gotten rolling and really intense, and then you sort of just really rapidly cut it out, bring us back into the really ambient trance stuff, and it's suddenly like you've released all that energy in one go. And I think that would be really satisfying.
Yeah. Chase Dobson is saying in the chat, trance wants that zap in the attack of the kick. I think that's what I was trying to convey.
Yeah.
That zap. So use the OG kick, high pass it, and layer a low end kick element. And I think that's a great suggestion as well. So I would definitely listen to Chase. Chase is an OG himself.
Chase is a boss.
But yeah,
when it comes to kicks.
I think that's what I meant. Like that sappy, like it just wasn't punching me in the way that I just really wanted to be punched in a certain way, and it wasn't quite.
Yeah, I think how can we? I think there was climactic elements, but I think that sometimes that those we didn't. Yeah, I thought the arrangement was pretty good. But I think for progressive and trance.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times they don't peak super hard like in the way that bass music necessarily does.
Yeah, no, like normalized non-aggressive punch. Totally, I agree.
Normalized non-aggressive dance music.
You're watching Feedback and Friends on ILBC with special guest Crowdrock. I'm coming at you today from Denver, Colorado. Nathaniel is in Aberdeen, Scotland. And we review all our submissions, all genres. If you're a first timer here, it doesn't matter if you make Disney pop, which we literally have had, classical,
Dope.
ambient. We love everything. We do them in the order that they're received. If you are feeling impatient and generous at the same time, you can make a small donation to us via the Streamlabs link on the bottom.
Jalen in there.
Jalen will get in there after we
Okay.
have What Q Jumper next. But yeah, you can donate. You can donate $3 just to skip the queue, and you can donate $5 for what's called deluxe feedback. You can also subscribe to us on Twitch. We are now an affiliate, and that will also give you Q Jumping deluxe feedback. So we're going to jump to grades. Thank you so much for your donation, because it keeps us able to have these events and to do these things. We have another event coming up August 14th. You won't want to miss the She Knows Tech competition round of ILBC. That's going to be streamed at 8 p.m. Eastern time, which would be, I don't know, I'm in too many time zones. Figure it out. You're all adults-ish, sort of.
Google.
So
Except the
Google.
13-year-old producers.
Except the 13-year-old producers,
Google.
with
Google
the exception.
exists.
All right, so next we got grades. Grades, you have deluxe feedback, which means we listen to the whole track and we go over it. Is there anything that specific that you want? Tell us in the chat. Otherwise, we're just going to take a good old deluxe listen.
They do have a little comment as well first.
What's the comment?
With this song, I really want to try to write better lyrics and lyrical melodies. It's only half the song right now because I'm collaborating with another artist on this. But I'm looking on any tips on the vibe, mixing vocals, melodic elements, etc.
Vibes,
mixing melodic
We
elements.
got Chase Dobson in the chat as well.
Great.
So he's going to be
dude,
a good one for this.
He is a stellar melodic writer.
Wow, super nice vibes, grades. I always really, really enjoy your stuff. As a first time hearing, thoughts, impressions.
Thoughts, impressions. One, great work. Good job. I really like that a lot. First impression, kind of vibe wise, is that I think the vocals are, I would give the tune a little more space to breathe away from the vocals. I think a lot of times when I just got a submission to the label I started of a vocal tune, and I think the vocals are kind of back on back. And I think, leaving 2 bars, leaving a bar at the end of 4 and 8 bar phrases for vocal stuff is a good idea. Or doing, a whole 8 bar phrase in between choruses and verses is a really good idea, because I think it gives the vocals more impact. I think for mix wise, I felt like there was a lot missing from low and low mid to mid. Anywhere from 1,000 hertz and below, where I thought a lot of the elements that were in there could come up a little further, and it was a little heavy on the, 1,000 hertz up to 15, 18,000 kilohertz range was dominant, was really dominant, and maybe carving out a little more space of seeing where those vocals are exactly sitting, getting reductive with the vocals. EQ wise, and getting them right pocketed, and then kind of putting your other elements in the frequency spectrum around where exactly you want the vocals to sit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think grades has just sort of been getting into doing vocals, and I think it's easy when you're doing your own vocals to sort of bury them or to put a little too much effects in. My best advice, honestly, is ask a friend. Like when you're having to mix your own vocals, like go show your friend and just be like, okay, somebody's never heard this. Can you understand the lyrics? Can you hear all the things? Like, does it sound too far away or too forward? Because we all have a personal bias and distortion that makes it really hard. Like, in order for me to mix my own vocals, I have to go back and forth between reference tracks a lot. So I would also just find a couple of artists you really like with specific songs where you're like, I love that vocal tone and I love that balance, and just go back and forth and copy copy it in the same way, like, when we're learning to produce, a really valuable tool is to take an EDM track that you like and just lay it out in your DAW and sort of look at the arrangement and look at the structure. And so you're not necessarily copying the track, you're just learning from the framework. And I would encourage you to do the same thing with vocals and vocal treatment specifically, like line those up, because you have a really, really great voice. And yeah, I could understand it this time. That's not really the problem. I think more just like the balance, like there should be a little bit more like dry ASMR, I think, layering in the top just a bit, because the reverb is still sort of blurring you a little bit in a way that I don't want.
Or just letting the reverb sit on the top side of the vocals
exactly.
and not in the mids.
EQing the reverb, EQing a lot of the mids out of the reverb so you don't get that resonance, and that will clear the way for that like soft, that careful whisper. It's the opposite of a careless whisper. It's a careful whisper where you sit by the mic and you just make people want to hear you whisper to them, But it's a fabulous vibe.
And then condenser mics are so sensitive and they're so affordable these days.
They really are.
I actually have a condenser mic for this. It's a USB one, and it's fantastic.
So thankful to be living in 2022 at an acoustic level.
What's your mic,
Jalen,
Nathaniel?
Oh wait,
it's an AKG Lyra. There is a lower end version that's something else, similar names. I can't really call it, but I mean, it's really versatile because it has multiple cardioid input patterns, and you can configure between them. So, like right now, I've got it front, so it's literally just here and out.
Whoa!
And it doesn't capture anything going on the back.
Wow, no, it's very particular. Like, especially because you tend to have so much traffic noise going off at this.
Right now, I'm cheating a bit with that one because it would be picking it up, but I've got RTX Voice by NVIDIA also running
you got
in
a
between
gate.
my mic and voice meter.
That makes sense.
But it's an AI-powered gate, so it captures specifically just random background noise.
And Chase referenced ASMR, which was basically what I was getting at. Like, it's a good thing to think about. Use heavy compression, sound super close. That's a very modern thing. That's like kind of how people are used to sort of hearing vocals a little more up close. And you can still mix that with your washout reverb, but it's like having the ghost of that, having an imprint of that is a really good idea.
I also have a little sneak trick.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean, talking about understandability, legibility of your lyrics and your singing. Mm-hmm. If you find yourself maybe having a problem with making sure that you're understood, run Siri over it. Like from the iPhone or something. If you have an iPhone, run Siri, because its voice recognition is legitimately bad, and if it can understand what you're singing...
Use Siri.
I like that hack.
I love this hack. Where did you just come off with that, like insulting Apple users?
I was like...
Oh my God! All right, that was very precious. Next up, we got a young friend of Crowdrock's here. You want to tell us a little bit about Jalen?
Okay, so me and Jalen met, I don't know, a year or two ago. I think online, and we just started chatting, and then we've become tighter buddies. And I just really believe in Jalen's tunes and his ability to write, and he wanted to get a cut in. So let's listen to what Jalen's doing with the piano tune.
All right,
and check it out.
Let's check it out. All right, that was a bit of a surprise ending, but yeah, I was really impressed by how like smooth and pro, and I really like those little bubbly sounds that were going on in the second.
He writes light so well.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like happy music is tricky because it's like a fine line between like uplifting and car insurance commercial. But
Yeah.
I think that you actually hit that spot, Dylan. Like it's really enjoyable and it doesn't sound like cloying or cheesy or anything. For me, like a couple other people in the chat said that possibly having a different kick might be something to try. I do agree. I think it was like it needs to be a little more thick and almost like organic. You know, like a lot of like it because it has a little bit of disco but a little bit of modern. And I think that having a really thick, warm kick would really tie that all together. And I also think the intro doesn't do the drop and the rest of it justice. And this is a tough thing to do because your intro is supposed to be the place where you have less sounds and you bring things in, but you have to somehow do it so that it doesn't sound weaker than the rest of the track. And sometimes that can be like just an extra texture or layer, like some Foley, something to make the storytelling more complex, but without having an extra element to fight in there. So that could be a thing to try. But either way, just like doing a little bit more, you know, ear candy. I don't know why my video has started like being super laggy, but there you are, ear candy. To just like make it a little bit more, just a tiny % more in the intro, and then the rest of it can be anticipated and, you know, in a great way.
Yeah, I think the first place that I would look is like little just drum elements, drum rolls at the end of 4, 8, and 16 bar phrases, just to kind of keep things percussively interesting. I would also pull some of the perks out at some points in time, just like go dry, kick snare for a minute. I think that's a really nice way to be reductive, but stay impactful. You know, like a lot of times I think the best drops when you look at them and how they're designed is that the drop, it just comes with like a bass, a lead, and a kick and a snare, and that's it. You know what I mean? The human brain at some level really loves simplicity, especially I think it drops for me.
Yeah.
I think that the horn could go up a little bit in the mix, and I think and you know, kind of doing a little more carving with an EQ and like really saying like this is the frequency spectrum that I want this element to sit in, and I'm comparing that to some of the frequency ranges that are coming off of other channels. And then I think the bass, a lot of those basses needed to go up. I heard some cool bass writing that was there, but it was so far back in the mix.
Yeah, it could have been a little more prominent. I agree with you. What do you think, Natty?
I mean, right now I feel like it could still do an actual lead element.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but whether that's vocal or instrumental, if you're going to go instrumental, then it either has to be a really smooth sound, like something in the line with a brass instrument or a string instrument, you know, a fiddle or something like that kinds of lines where it's sort of singing the upper mid-range, upper high, like high-end kind of frequency spectrum. Or you doing a vocal which is more mid-range focused again, because you've got plenty of space there, I think, in this track.
Yeah, something plucky, something like mallet, guitar, fiddle, all of those things sound like they would have space in the mix to work too.
Totally.
Also, sorry, there's some discussion in the chat here from Nathan who I think is worth bringing up. 4 elements max, in my honest opinion, is what he says at the same time. Now, I mean, that's a very common piece of advice, but it's almost deceptive. You can have multiple elements all effectively doing the same thing in slightly different ways, and it would still technically count under the 4 elements rule.
Right. Yeah. I know. I mean, I think that 4 discernible things, like 4 things that your brain can follow, is a good thing. But those could be comprised of multiple layers and parts.
I like to think, when I'm writing songs, I like to think about different elements as different characters. And the best stories that I like to read often are ensemble, and they don't necessarily have one character that speaks through. There isn't one protagonist through the whole movie. Like, you know all of the characters, and you like all of the characters, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be one lead element through the whole tune. Think about it as characters, or as like, I want this scene to have this character speaking, and that could be the bass line, or I want this scene to have this character speaking, and that could be more a lead element, and then I want this scene to be these 2 characters involved with each other, and the bass and the lead together. Does that make sense? I like to think about just a good analogy for me while I'm writing is like, I sometimes I even come up with how my baseline looks if I saw him as a person. You know what I mean?
I like that. The story.
Interesting one.
Or how this horn would look if I met them. You know what I mean? And so it's just the more imagery that I can associate, the better for me. And then I try and think about what would those characters do and how would those characters interact, just because it helps me create a narrative in my head.
That's
I don't
really
know if,
cool. No,
I don't know
that's
if
really
anybody
cool
else
advice.
does that, but I do it.
I mean, there's so many like different games and exercises you can play with yourself to just spark your creativity, and there's whatever works, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's why you hear the story of like the kid who has like one synth and makes everything on it, because that alone is a game maybe that they didn't sign up for, but that they have to play,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they're making brilliant sounds because of that restriction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I actually remember when I came to one of your classrooms and took the MacBook out, and the kid wanted to learn dubstep, and there were no VSTs on it at all. So I was like, okay, and we have no synths, no sound sources. So
Right.
what can we do? And we basically took the mic, we recorded noise, we printed that, we resampled it, we just used like EQs and just basic stuff until we
Yeah.
had dubstep. It took like 47 bounces at a time, but I mean, I think that's how they did that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like when Skrillex first came out, Skrillex was using FM8 in ways that like you really had to be creative about, because it didn't have those. And then Serum was created partially as a response to like the lack of features. And now here we are, you kids just have your synths wiping your butts for you. I tell you. I am jealous of the kids today, because it's like, I want to learn this, type it in. Oh, here's a video, I can just sit back and learn. That's not how it worked in my day. We had to operate our
I
synths
don't-
uphill both ways.
I don't envy their climate life at 2050.
Literal burn, that one.
Literal burn. Shit. All right. Feedback and
But
friends.
you know me, I'm always the kind of guy to be in defense of the kids. You know.
I love the kids. We are all each other's children. Okay, this is sounding a little culty. I'll calm down. We got Baco Bibizo up next with Uplifting Prog House. Baco Bibizo shouts out. He's a super long-term Discord and Twitch supporter. Done a lot of cool stuff for us. Let's check out this demo.
Oh, you've broken again.
All right. Wow, that was some stuff from Baco Bibizo. We definitely seem to always have these themes. It's like we never actually like tell anyone anything, but people just submit stuff, and it's really cool that way. And sorry,
Yeah,
Nathaniel.
another nice, light, fluffy one.
Another nice life, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tonight people have been positive, and this makes me feel hope, because I feel like we were just discussing this at lunch about how like post-COVID we're kind of all just trying to like rewire ourselves to be social, to be maybe positive even at all. And this is telling me like there is some happiness out there. I'm getting some vibes off of this.
I think a lot of people are happy to be out of lockdown.
Yeah.
I, for one, am.
I definitely am as well. It's nice to have everybody
It's
back.
funny because while you're all wanting to write happy music, my music's getting darker and more depressing.
Oh, your music. Yeah, no, my music has been getting darker too, but to be honest, that's just because I'm finishing an album that I started a few years ago. So I've gone through a lot of emotions.
I like writing from both light and fluffy places and dark places, and I just have two monikers.
Ah, yes. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Starting a new project name for that.
Yeah.
Baco Bibizo has sent us a range of stuff, though. And I like this mood on you. Did you hear?
They said they were trying to write trance, but always seem to make house. So maybe we can offer some suggestions here on how to turn it into a trance track.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now I think that the problem is it's kind of really poppy. And trance isn't very poppy usually. It's just like do 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 do. You've got to be more tense with it, even if it's happy. Focus more on the bass region and the kick and the hat pattern rather than the melodies, and just use the melodies as sort of an infill for everything else. I think that would start getting you more into the trance direction than the house direction. Because house is, I don't know whether anyone noticed over the years, but house never leaves the charts.
It's true. And now, in fact, now there's all these articles about how Beyonce and Drake have brought it back. And it was like, well, I'm sorry. First of all,
never left?
It never left.
Where did they bring it back from?
I don't know.
Where is this magical place?
This was in
Can I go there?
Yeah, let's go to the land of Beyonce and Drake raves, which apparently is light years ahead of us.
I don't want to go to that rave. It sounds a little bougie.
That's true.
And that makes a recipe for a really bad rave.
It's probably like sponsored by Binance or something.
I'm not going to
the
that
Binance
rave.
Beyonce.
I don't want to go to that rave.
I don't either.
Some really good advice here from Dynamite as well.
Oh, yeah?
I also like the way you've respelled your name. Also, possibly less sustained from all the instruments. Plucks with reverb may complement the genre more. That's definitely a big trance trope right there. Lots and lots of plucks and arps and generally,
arps.
Trance needs more filigree.
Yeah. So I would say if you want to go towards trance, really get familiar with how to arp and arp a bass line well.
Arp,
arp on an eighth, arp on a 16th, and really get used to the different patterns for arpeggiation. Really get used to maybe some swinging of arpeggiation, and really understand how to arpeggiate a bass line, I think, is a good look. I think write slower melodically. So I think, the horns that we were talking that were in that tune,
horns for
they
sure.
started about at a minute, is that just don't stress yourself out, but sit down at a piano and just before the tune's even clicking and the kick drum's hitting, just work on a piano and find some melodic structures that you like. I mean, when we talk about trance, we're really talking about things that operate in a very, very melodic space and don't operate in a hook space. They operate in a very kind of melodic environment. And then arpeggiated basses, yeah.
Natty's collection of feedback samples for your ASMR pleasure. All right, we are going to move on to Slappy the Slap God. Thank you, Slappy the Slap God, for your slappin' donation or subscription. And then we have a couple of other people. Thank you all for this. It is superb. It enables us to keep putting on these events. I think I'm going to start making some tutorials, actually. A lot of people have told me that some of the workshops that I've been doing. Yes, that's cool. Jason is ready as well. We're going to start doing some recorded content for your pleasure after this season of ILBC is over. We've got 3 more rounds to go. Super excited for that. If you're not subscribed to our Twitch, get on it and you will get notifications for all these crazy events and performances. Now, without further ado, Slappy the Slap God.
Bow down.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate the feedback. Yeah. Slap, 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 slappy, slap in the whole entire world. Clap, clap, clap when I clap my hands, the atmosphere with twirls. I'm in your brain, gonna cause the rain by casting spells. I'm in your brain, gonna go insane and take your sense of smell. Yeah, I keep it 10 toes down on the block, and I keep one hand on bag and the other on my block. Slappy stampede when it come through your hood, your man gets stopped. A wet man's chance with a trigger, I feel so wet, you need a mop. Yeah. Eh, eh. Yeah. I disappeared into the Tesseract. Saw my doppelganger's body spread among the trash. Woke up 13 weeks later in hospital bed. Now there's a time of beeping noise. Give me feedback.
I'm not sure what this is, but I like it.
Thank you for the feedback you get. I can feel looking my way.
Oh, Slappy. Oh.
What is this?
That was the most amazing thing I've ever heard in my life. I don't really know. I don't know how.
Slappy, finish a song so we can sign it.
This is like, I would ask if those are your
favorite genre.
I kind of like the like soulful, like, you know, singing, sing-song falsetto.
This section right here.
The quiet section.
Yeah, the quiet section was really fun. The quiet section was great. Are all of those your own vocals, Slappy?
I mean, either they are, or Slappy has like a vocalist living in the closet that he's like, now do this, now do that.
Sing me feedback song.
So I like this. This is the idea behind Bohemian Rhapsody, but 100,000,000%.
Slappy is not short on personality.
Slappy is a god. I mean, I usually when I see people with artist names like that, I'm like, oh yeah, what are you, the god of what? Like your mom's basement? But Slappy, you have impressed me.
You know,
I really liked the drill grime section.
Yeah.
I
Me
made
too.
samples from Splice, but that was
Whatever.
Like, I saw it was like, where's a whole song of this as well? You've got a whole album here of just vibes.
you got 5 great ideas in here, Slappy. And like what I really want to see is you finish. At least the last one was the last sketch, the last vignette or sketch.
Vignette.
Feedback.
Yeah, I'm not.
Give me feedback.
I'm not into the like 90s rock. I mean, I like Oliver Tree, okay, but like, you know, there's still a part of me that like wish Pearl Jam never existed.
The problem is, Jason, is that we were there. If we weren't there,
Yeah.
we'd be like, oh, this is so nostalgic. But we're just like, okay, we already stopped washing our hair like years ago.
Except for Weezer. I still love Weezer.
Oh, yeah, Weezer, Pavement.
Yeah.
My boyfriend really likes Pavement. I think we saw like a Pavement song at Primavera. So, I mean, I'm down with whatever. I think that you've kind of killed every single genre that you've shown us.
Yeah, but like we have to finish cuts. You know what I mean? So like I think that's the really the next step is getting to that 2.5 minute mark on some of these. Is getting, you know, like if you're gonna rap and gonna do some grime from the first one, then, you know, hit that 2.5 minute mark. You know, get a couple of verses that really slappy.
What do you want to bet that Slappy's actually just got this whole album finished and maybe just has like Mad Libs, like empty words, and then they're like, oh, I'm gonna go on another one. Let me just fill in those words real quick. Feedback. It's just too finished. Like it sounds like you just made all this right now, except you're a super person and you stopped time for like 3 weeks so that you could flesh out these skills to the point where it's like beyond meme level. You know.
It's from a feedback giving standpoint, I was so thoroughly entertained though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
course.
I mean, I think Slappy's really got understands that part of this business, part of being an artist is being an entertainer. That's the first thing you are, and I was thoroughly entertained.
I was extremely entertained. I might have to like save that link again because that was like, I'm probably going to just listen to that on my own time for leisure. Like while I'm relaxing with a cup of tea and that mix.
Feedback.
Thank you so much for that, Slappy.
Yeah, thanks, Slappy.
And thanks for the donation. And
I really enjoyed that.
I did enjoy that as well. Next up, Calaxis. Calaxis, thank you also for your deluxe donation. What are we doing for Calaxis today, other than, you know, just
Just a second.
existential stuff?
I'm mainly looking for feedback with the vocals and the arrangement. I have not started mixing yet.
Okay.
Vocals and arrangement. Okay.
All right. Let us check it out.
Just one more round, you would tell me, and then I'd say it's getting late. I would respond sincerely, but now after all of this time, I know that I wish I could have told you the way that I felt, but I guess that it's time to move on. 'Cause since your light went so damn dark, I never thought I could be the same. And since the day that I met you, you changed it all. And you know the world is not better now, but you can't stop pushing forward. I just hope you're in a better place now. 'Cause please, I gotta see you again. 'Cause I don't know when our paths will cross. It's getting late to remove the moss. The pavement's cracked, but the
That was a beautiful ending. Definitely want to start off with just saying shouts out for that ending because, I mean, obviously we hear a lot of whips, so usually the ending is the last thing to be done, but I love actually hearing a well thought out ending. I love those sounds in your ending. My thing is you've got so much going on that I think that mixing is going to be hard for you when you start doing it because you've just got, like, you've got a lot of great ideas, but it seems like they're all happening at once. You know what I mean? Like, it's too much, and then I don't get the chance to focus on what I want because, like, the frequency range is so full and it's not really, like, breathing enough for me. So I would say for mixing, one of the things I would do is just, like, strip down as much as you can musically. Keep your clothes on. I mean, if you're in your, by yourself, no one cares. But strip down musically as much as you can, and in person if it's a hot day. And then ask yourself, like, if something needs to come back. You know, like mute everything except your vocal and something else, and be like, okay, wow, that sounds really cool. Maybe you might decide that you like that minimal space so much that it's going to be a breakdown or a section later, and then add more, and then just see, like, the game of what can I mute is a really good game because if you can keep the same framework and feeling and have less going on, your ears will just feel more spacious.
Yeah, agreed that the frequency spectrum is full. Also, the kind of like even on the kind of 4 and 8 bar phrasing, like there's not like a lot of silence in there. So like when I would think about when you're using your vocals and thinking about arrangement, because that's the kind of the two things you were thinking about a call and response for your vocals. You know what I mean? Where or something that like a pad element that just sits with your vocals. You know, so think about. You know, if we're, and it looks like we're headed towards pop structure and pop arrangement. So what I would really think about is like, what do I want for a hooky element in my chorus? And then what kind of pad structures or soft melodic structures do I want for my verse structures? Mm-hmm. You know, and thinking about those, I think sometimes it felt like the timing on the vocals slipped a little bit. So I'd go in there and kind of micro edit and make sure you're kind of hitting the notes or hitting the timing structures that you want to vocally.
That's a really good, that's actually something I forgot to say with Grade's track as well, is that sometimes the difference between like a really good vocal and a professional vocal is this micro timing. Like, and they do this in studios all the time. A lot of the time, like, people tend to be too on top of the beat because they're excited, they're nervous, or they're just anticipating what's to come. Whereas like what sounds better often, depending on the style, is to be more in the pocket. So it might be that you have to shift the entire vocal forward a little bit. It might just be that like certain sections you rushed or a word that you rushed, but something that I do for like the final when I'm polishing something is go in and micro move and be like, hey, when I swung this da-da-da-da sentence, was it right in there or was it like a little bit off? Can I just move it a tiny bit? So you're totally right that can make the difference between a professional song and not.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Sorry, you first.
Yeah, I think overall, like, I think the vibe stayed consistent. I thought it was a like solid piece of emotional work, and that we kind of knew how we were supposed to feel. A lot of times, I think I ask myself when I'm writing a song is how do I feel, and how do I want the listener to feel? Like, is the song emotionally clear? And I felt like that track was emotionally clear. You know.
Good point. Natty, did you have any thoughts?
Well, my advice is well about micro edits of the vocals. Sometimes once you've gone through a session of heavy micro editing, seriously just take a break. Because I found myself with some of the recent stuff I worked on over the last 12 months, I actually disagree with some of my decisions from 12 months ago now. But it's mainly because I was in that zone of just keep working on it that I didn't really think about it in the way that I'm thinking about it now with that space.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
The other thing with this track, I really love the vibe so far, and obviously it's unmixed, so I'm not going to comment too heavily there. You guys have covered the important stuff. There was a section before, like, it's like after the first chorus where you got really quiet before the first verse. Like, second verse, I mean. Sorry, I can't speak anymore. I feel like maybe working in a vocal spoken sample of some kind might actually work really well there. You know, something that aids the world building of your track, the state of the relationship, maybe what they're doing, you know, something along those lines. I think that it would add a lot to the emotional character of this piece, because it does have a lot of character already, but it's such a quiet moment that I feel like you need something there just to emphasize it further.
Yeah, yeah. Galaxis is saying that the second verse actually has lyrics, but the vocal wasn't good enough, so it's removed for now. So I guess that will be put back in later. Um, yeah, I mean, I personally like the only thing else I would say about the vocal is like I think that there's a lot of things that as you grow as a vocalist, you will learn, like, again, mental games to put yourself in the right headspace. And there were times where I felt like maybe you weren't like feeling it as much as you could. Maybe you were concentrating too much on getting a good take. And I do this too. Like, you hear your own voice in the monitoring and you're like, no, I have to, like, you're almost trying to like fix yourself like a synth, you know? At least I do that. I go in and I'm like, no, I need to have more of this. But if you get too in your head while you're doing it, it translates. Like, it sounds like you're kind
Yeah.
of just reading the lyrics. And like, I think that this is an need to see you again. The title has the word need in it. I'm not 100% buying that you need to see them again. I feel like you want to see them again, but I want you to make me feel like you need, like, I don't have that urgency.
Yeah, and that's just a practice issue.
Close your eyes.
You know, of like to the point where you're confident enough after vocal take after vocal take after vocal take that you're gonna hit the technicality of it, so you can sing straight to the emotion.
Yeah.
And just really try and embody exactly what you're trying to go after emotionally. And because the human ear and the human brain is so attuned to perceive emotionality in voices. That's all that the human brain and ear, not all of what the human brain and ear is designed for. It's also designed as an alarm system, right? Of like, I might get eaten by a predator. But
Totally.
its secondary purpose is that it's used for communication in small groups of people. And we're incredibly attuned to the emotionality of voices, and that's part of why music works, right? Is because and why vocals are so appealing and why it's hard to have an instrumental hit, is because people get wrapped up, or people, one, love stories. That's how we learn. And two, because this life is an emotional one. And so I think the two things to think about are, one, just keep on doing those takes until you feel great about the technicality. And then, just then you can do the takes where you're just speaking to the emotionality. I think does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then one more vocalist tip, since we're on this thing, and is that your monitoring situation is more important than even you think it is. Like, people sometimes don't realize how much of a difference just having your vocals up a little bit more than the music in the mic, or maybe a little bit less. Like, as a producer, if you're a producer that comes from this side of it, you may have been annoyed before trying to record a vocalist and being like, they're like, they're a little up a little bit, down a little bit, and you're like, they're so annoying. But it needs to happen that way, because your brain and your body, they really work together. And in a certain way, like for me, if I don't hear myself enough, I'll push my voice harder and I'll start to kind of yell a little bit more, and it doesn't sound as good. If I hear myself too much, I might do something else. So it really pays to just spend the extra time setting yourself up. And like, we can't all have perfect situations, but you can be as comfortable as possible.
Latency is real.
Latency, not just latency, but even
Yeah.
just level and tone.
Yeah.
I had a client once that was just a nightmare because she could only record with one ear of the headphones off. She had to hear herself in the room. She couldn't have a headphone over her
Galaxis
ear.
is literally just saying the same thing.
Exactly, and that's a nightmare because you get like the leaking audio from the headphone. So, I mean,
Or make sure if it's a closed back phone, one, make sure it's a closed back phone, and then two, just make sure it's real tight so you don't get as much leak.
Natty, you can't have semi-open cans because the cans will leak. Just like, you have to have closed ones for recording, but what you could do is you could have like an in-ear monitor. You don't have to pay a fortune. I got mine off of Amazon for like $40, and they actually are really good. And you can just stick one in and one out, and it's not going to leak sound. But whatever your comfort level, you have to get there as a vocalist. Like, and I was reminded of this because for the last 3 years I've been in Spain with no place to record, in an apartment with really thin walls. It's been beautiful, but every time I recorded, it was like a chore. Like, I would sit there, I couldn't hear myself well enough. I could hear the street. I knew I was going to have to run it through RX. And then here, I just came back here where my booth is behind me with that curtain is covering. And I just went in and I recorded like a single take. And the clarity and the fact that like I could hear myself properly. I was singing better, and then I had less to do. So I think that these little things, like, we might just be like, oh, let's fix it later. No, fix it now for yourself so that you're comfortable and that you're getting the best sound in your own ears as well as to the board. So don't underestimate that. All right. Monologue off.
No, I think they're all good
It's
points.
your turn this week.
It's my turn this week. Next up, we have Good Ending. Is that the artist name, I believe?
No, they call themselves Dynamite,
Dynamite.
apparently. I
Oh,
don't know why their sound archive is a different
Dynamite.
thing. Maybe it's...
Dynamite. Now playing. Okay, any specific feedback?
No, they just want to make sure we get to at least 2 minutes 36, apparently.
All right, we'll do it.
Yeah. Chase is right.
What did Chase say
Yeah.
there?
Full full send on the
Some
side chain.
fantastic ideas with that one.
Full send on the side chain.
Ooh, it's still going.
Oh, they got a pretty part at the end. Great. Use this in the middle too. Like go from like full. My thought is go from. Oh, I'll keep listening.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this part, like, this is a lot of ideas, but I mean, this part is great, and I want it sooner. Like, this is this is my favorite part of the whole track right there. What do you think, Natty? Did you like that part?
I mean, this bit's so pretty.
Yeah. No, this is fabulous.
Great.
Yeah. Bring
Sade me
bring-
right now.
Ooh. It just keeps going in awesomeness. Yeah.
Work backwards. I mean, the other bits, I think, suffer from a heavy use of reverb everywhere.
Yeah.
But the space itself isn't consistent.
Yeah.
And that last bit, though, was so balanced and so clear in intention that I think you need to say, okay, what am I doing right here? And replicate it with your other sounds. Because you could do that, even though they're more aggressive. It'll totally work.
Yeah. I agree. And I think that, like, somebody said that the sound choices were a bit weird. I think a lot of that has to do with controlling the balance. Like, they sounded to me like a lot of them could use some filtering. Like, in general, they just sounded like out-of-the-box sounds. Like, when I make a synth sound with a synth and then I don't put a filter on it yet, that's sort of that square kind of timbral.
But so much of
wall.
the future bass kind of 8-bit and big build intensity was there, which made me really happy. Is that like structurally, like I knew how I was supposed to feel when that thing dropped, and I think it achieved that. I think again using that last bit of tune for the melodic content and in between the big drops is is where I would go next. I think overuse of reverb and maybe or just not carving out specific spaces for specific things in the spectrum, or two specific spaces in the spectrum for something. I think that would really go a long way. And again, side chaining to the kick and the snare, since it's just it's on the straight. It's on the slow straight. I think Chase had a really good idea there. I would totally go after a huge sidechain and maybe sidechain like 4 different things.
I heard
to the
something
kick
that
snare.
sounded like sidechaining to me, but it was very pumpy. Like, to me, it sounded like maybe there was sidechaining,
like a
but the
fourth,
but
you know
the
what I mean?
envelope was a little off.
Yeah, or open the release on that sidechain so it takes a while before it comes back in. And sidechaining is again one of those things that it can take a while to get good at. But I think if they really got in and sidechained and really spent some time with the release and probably like a high ratio, you know what I mean? Go up, maybe go even 8. I wouldn't go to infinity.
Not even just a ratio too, but the shape of the envelope. That's why, like, in recent years, I'm not always using. I used to just always use compressors and gates because they have some envelope control. But now some of these plugins that actually let you draw the envelope, I've been really enjoying.
Yeah.
Like Duck Buddy for Ableton, for instance,
Duck
which
Buddy?
I talk about. Yeah, it's a Slink plugin that Slink made that allows you to just draw in your exact sidechain shape. And then some
cool. Fun.
some people swear by manual drawing in the automation, which is the same thing. It's like really like drawing in the shape that you want.
I've been using Tremulator to get a side chain just because it ducks really well.
Yeah.
And then it has a bunch of different settings in there, and it just sounds different than a side chain.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
It's got a lot more personality in it than
It's just
a
about having
sidechain does.
control. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people now, they understand attack and release, but there's also hold, which can really deeply affect it. And then when you draw the envelope in, you can create more than just attack, hold, sustain, release. You can create like weird patterns of pumping up. So like there's people who use creative sidechaining just like they would use like a gate to create a rhythmic effect on an element instead of just knocking it out of the way of something else.
And
so, yeah.
And like when we really think about it, Kate Trinata's incredibly creative use of sidechain has really kind of redefined house in really awesome ways for me. You know what I mean? Like of anybody out there, at least on this side of the pond, knows how to use a sidechain and use a sidechain well, especially in 4/4 structures. Like Kate Trinata slams in that.
Yeah,
regard.
Kaytranada is
Kaytro-
awesome that way. Really pushing. It's sculpting the negative space. I mean,
Yeah, and
people
he's
need to
really
pay
good at
attention
it.
about that. He's
Yeah.
really, really good at it. People always ask, like, how do I make this like Kaytranada? And it's like, figure out how to bump the elements between each other.
Yeah.
There's a rhythm between making space for things as much as anything
Yeah,
else.
and you know that dude sidechains.
That guy definitely sidechains.
He's the king of ducks.
The King of Ducks. Next up, the only cool producer that I know in Valencian community of Spain that is from there. I'm sure there's more, but Kurtubir, you are my hero. It's so great. We hung out with Kurtubir this summer.
It was the coolest.
I think it was actually still spring, but it was a heat wave, so I'm just going to say summer. Any specific feedback from Kurtubir desired this week?
No, but it's apparently a surprise. Something different from what I usually do.
Okay. All right. We like that. Again, some amazing work from Kurtubir. Really, really love the stuff that you submit every week. I love those like apocalyptic sounds. To me, it really goes well with the imagery. Kurtubir really likes these like religious, like medieval kind of gothic sort of imagery with cover art, and that intro really like spoke to me in that way. I thought it was super neat. Yeah, the snare when it first dropped seemed like it like needed a little more sparkle, and then the second drop I think you had like an extra percussion layer which was giving me the sparkle I wanted. So really my only nitpick would be like during the first drop when it gets minimal, maybe you need like a little bit more sizzle like a layer to the snare or something to just give us that equal intensity of sparkle that the rest of the track. Chase is suggesting a bit of bit crushing on the bass line to make it pop. What'd you think of that, Jay?
I loved it. I thought vibe-wise it was really consistent. Like, it was nice, and I like dark music. I especially like dark music in a club. I liked the design on the bass line. I did not like the pattern as much. I think the next place to go with that bass, because it was a pretty straightforward bass line, would be to either like throw a LFO on it a little bit and get a little more wobbly, or write a little more complex of a pattern for the bass line. I think that was the thing that struck out to me, is the clear next move. Also, I thought, like, when you start the tune, include the bass line. So I think that make a change in the bass line. Like, I try and write two to three different patterns, and then have at least 2 to 3 patches per bass line in the stuff that I'm working on for Crowdrock right now. So I think always kind of coming out the gate with at least 2 bass lines you like. And I think really that the bass sound was cool. I was into the bass sound. I would definitely throw a LFO on that piece and get a little wobbly, because I think that's kind of where it's headed, is that night bass, kind of bass house vibe. And I think, the LFO or doing something similar.
Well,
there could
one of my
be really fun.
favorite tricks for like movement, which is like, it's weird, like neuro drum and bass seems to have the lock on this, but not a lot of other genres do I hear like notch filter automation. I think that sometimes just a searing little notch filter automation can give your bass like that little bit of movement and definition, and it just like telling the audience where to go is one of my main things that I always teach, is like, people want, in this case, they're on the dance floor and they want your instructions, so you need to be clear of certain things. So that bass line needs to sort of carve itself in, like dig in its heels with you, and a notch filtering seems like maybe a good idea to play with.
Otherwise, I really dug the vibe, for sure. That was fun.
Wait, why is Nathaniel muted?
And then I would also think about opening up the filter on that bass line.
It's your fault, Nettie.
Not maybe messing with the resonance a little bit, but like just going into whatever patch you got for the bass and just throwing the filter open to close, either manually playing that in, a filter open and closing on the actual synth itself, or an LFO on a 16th and a 12th could be a really fun place for that tune to go to. Otherwise, I thought all the elements were sitting pretty well together. The vibe was clear.
Natty, oh wait, you know what? I know why you're muted now. I muted you because you were typing. In a second place.
Oh, sorry.
We have a chain of triple mutes here.
Mute.
It's a wonder that we even get unmuted, to be honest with you. If y'all at home could see the chain of signal paths that we have to orchestrate in order to give Natty audio and have us audio and not come back at each other. Big shouts out to Loopback. They make great software, but we're also using like a browser-based chat room and OBS and blah, blah,
and
blah.
Illy's killing it.
My routing's a bit weird too.
Yeah. Well, Natty, sorry, what were you saying? I'm sure it was something wonderful.
Pitch bending portamento glide. I wanted to hear that bass go boom, 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 boom.
Yay!
Yeah, move that thing around. Yeah, if it's bass house, if it's bassline house, if it's garage, like get that puppy moving.
Get that puppy moving.
Giddy up at 400 hertz. Giddy up. Or 200 hertz, somewhere in there.
Amazing. Any other thoughts, Natty? Sorry, I'm not sure how much.
I really like the vibe as well.
Vibe.
I didn't actually say much to add on to your thing, but I think plenty of interesting arrangement choices. It's just really about polishing that bass. I think that's the main thing to focus on next for sure.
Yeah, that is bass house. It is the center.
Yeah. No, I'm just shooting guns.
Oh, just shooting guns. All right. Finger gunning it up. Next up, speaking of guns with fingers, we have Lotus up next. Hey.
Mm-hmm.
See what I did there? And did they want
Lotus
anything?
Up.
Lotus up.
Full chamber.
Full send.
Still in the fresh off the press stage, so any feedback on mixing and mastering would be super helpful.
All right. Done. Wow, that was really, really cool. It's definitely, I like how this is vibing more dark.
Where's my IDM, Mitch? Oh, yeah, that was it. Oh,
Scratched it.
Scratched my IDM.
Yeah, it reminded me of Eamon Tobin. It was really great, and I really think that you're a talented sound designer. Like all of that was chaos, but very controlled.
Yeah, so I think when I think about, because speaking of Chase, who is chef's kissing, and I'm gonna genuinely agree with that sentiment. There's always this kind of exchange between like how IDM-y do I want to write and how much do I want people to dance on a dance floor. So I think, you know, if the goal is to really slay a club, keeping consistent with the kick snare for like 8 and 16 bar segments and then just going fucking full send on IDM, I think that can get, you can often get away with on a dance floor. If dance floor really isn't necessarily the goal, and it doesn't always have to be, you know, then don't worry about it. But if the goal is to also slay floor, then
Slay floor.
slay the floor, load up and slay that floor. Then I think the good move is, you know, a good 8 or 16 bar segment with just that solid 4 on the 4. Or, you know, solid kick snare pattern that I did see in there.
Yeah, totally. It really depends, like, if you care. And then there are people who will go just to see, like, an Eamon Tobin show and sit in their seats and be mesmerized. So that is a thing.
I mean, I went to Autechre, and it was fantastic. But it was in no way, shape, or form danceable.
Yeah, I mean, whatever your audience is going for, like I always suggest this too, is like you can always do multiple mixes of something. You can have like the indulgent, crazy director's cut, and then you can have like the dance floor, more palatable edit that like gets people sort of into your stuff.
Because that sound design was fantastic. And I think this could really do well in a big room bass setting, you know. But it could also, you know, I think committing either way sounds really fun. You know what I mean? Like if
yeah.
For
like,
me, but that, you know, it's not my tune, I guess.
No.
But that sound design was great.
Really, really cool.
I mean, for me, am I muted? Am I okay?
You're good. You're good. You're only muted when I make. Anyways, go ahead.
I really enjoyed this one, and it definitely sits in the music is cinema camp. You know, I mean, I'm not meaning it literally has to be cinematic music as such, but that you can sit there and actually imagine a whole world without having any context for it.
Yeah, it did great in that
wonderful.
world. Yeah, it did great in that world building. Like I felt in a dystopian space.
Yeah, no, it was super, super cool. I mean, I was inspired to put the visuals on just because I was like, oh, I'm watching. It is cinematic, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it, and I think if you were to perform it as well in this version, combining it with some form of visual would be really powerful. And I think that, that's a valid way of performing a track as well, especially right now. Visual space is getting so exciting. I mean, we've got Volta going on and behind us, but there's also programs like Resolume and whatever else all doing interesting things in the space. And if you can learn a couple of them, or then for your own work, you can actually do even more interesting shows with that as part of the appeal.
Yeah, yeah, it's easier than ever. I mean, I'm doing this while we do feedback. I'm controlling visuals in Volta, and just once you hook it up to audio, you have constant moving 360 visuals. For really, the only limitations are your CPU these days. So, which is a limitation.
Yeah, mine's prize.
And like your creative ability in the visual space too. Lots of people have great eyes or great ears, but sometimes not always both. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know that I do. I just like to make objects that move in time, and I like colors, and
Yeah.
so I do like this sort of puzzle piece philosophy, but that's why I don't go into like full on generative stuff, because I don't see things. But give me some objects to cut and paste and some ways to just
totally.
make them move, and there it is.
I mean, I think that's a good approach. Almost montagey. What's the word? Collage.
Yes.
I think that's kind of the best way to describe your approach there, and that's a really cool approach because you're recontextualizing the objects that you're using. It's the same way samples in music. Using samples is a skill too, because you have to choose the right ones, make sure they're all fitting together, choose an interesting narrative that transforms them. That's all really, really cool, exciting stuff.
Exactly.
And visuals can be the same.
Yeah, to chime on to Chase's input in the chat. Yeah, Richard Devine did not do well with the dance floor, but I still liked it. But like it's going to be hard to IDM's one of those spaces where it's a very small group of people that really like IDM. Same with breakcore, right?
Absolutely.
I love breakcore, and I can take about 30-45 minutes of it.
Yeah, totally. Well, speaking of Chase Dobson, we have Chase Dobson up next. My segues are just on fire today. You're all welcome. A track called Quantum Computing. I'm already excited. Did Chase want anything specific, Natty?
Commentary on aesthetic choices, overall feel, vibe, and would you rave to this?
Would you rave to it? That's so good. I mean, Chase, like, I gotta tell you, if I were reincarnated as an inanimate object, I would want to be one of your synths, because the way that you clearly love and cherish and caress all of these objects and like create smooth, sexy sounds out of them, I feel like it would be a great life. You know?
I've watched it happen. He's good at it. He's really good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us some inside scoop about
Okay.
working with Chase. Dirty tricks.
Dirty tricks of working with Chase. I mean, a lot of for this tune, I just want to point out at how good Chase is at mixdown, EQing, and mastering. He is a mixdown and master engineer. So if you guys want tunes to be that cleanly EQ'd, I mean, part of it is I think Chase is also like really paying detailed attention to what frequency pockets he wants everything to be in, and then really writing, different parts and different parts of the frequency spectrum so it sounds really full and really clean. Like he knows where he wants each sound to sit. And I think, his undeniable ability in the mixdown and mastering space is pretty clear.
It's really good.
And yeah, you can hire him for it.
You can hire him? Isn't he like way too busy? Doesn't he have like a waiting list?
Yeah, he might have a waiting list.
I bet you Chase has
He's
a waiting
probably a
list.
workaholic too.
Nah. I mean, when he's on tour, not much happens because he's working. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's on tour a decent amount.
He's like a sailor of times from yore, Is he's either at sea or he's not. And
Yeah.
Does he have a girl at every port?
no, he actually has
just one partner,
one
Dory,
yeah.
who is an amazing.
Who is in every port? She's waiting for him.
Dory is an amazing florist. Oh my gosh!
Really?
Chase, post Dory's Insta link. Dory's floral stuff is mind-blowingly good.
Really? I haven't even seen this. I'll have to check it
And
out.
I mean, as good as Chase's tunes are, I feel like Dory's
flowers
floral
are better?
stuff are not better. No. As good. As good. As good. I feel.
So we got
I feel
two creative professionals working together. Where's the album art with the flowers on it then, Chase?
Oh, yeah. Why do you not have flower album art?
He has a very specific aesthetic, and he's pretty good in the graphic space too.
So actually, that was his feedback question,
Chase-
was asking about aesthetic. I mean, you drip aesthetic, Chase. you Chase Dobson is an aesthetic. That's all I got to say about that.
I think when it comes to melodic and progressive stuff, Chase knows the space well and operates in it really well. I think I can't see any improvement on the aesthetic.
No.
I mean, I think a melodic structure in there would probably be good, and I think Chase is really great in melodic structures. So I think, you know, it's hooky, and those like light ARP flutters are really fun. I would maybe, like, my first thought is I would pull back on a couple of the ARP flutters and think about, you know, a mid to high melodic structure. That bass line was slamming though, and I think the filter work and the ARP work, or was it just filter work in there, Chase? I don't even know. Was it ARPs?
Oh, it was really good. Whatever.
It was a bit of both.
Yeah.
Sounded.
Yeah, we got a
soft.
Neon Cities floral vid. You can go check it out.
You do have a Neon Cities floor. Was it her flowers specifically?
I think it was a picture I took of a flower, because I'm really into plants too. I like plants a lot.
I love plants. Yes. Amplitude modulation, says Chase.
Yeah, it was okay. Cool.
Very amazing. Oh, my 3 o'clock alarm.
Yeah.
I always forget that it goes off.
Agreed, Dave. Like, those ARP flutters were slam.
Those ARP flutters are really good. So Natty, as a slightly more impartial person who enjoys synthwave and analog, what do you have to say?
I mean, everything made sense. It didn't draw itself out too long. Obviously, the mastering and mixing engineer experience shows like there wasn't any weirdness about it. So, you know, I think your comments were all on par there. I mean, obviously, if this was going to be on a radio, it would be really hard to sell it because progressive is kind of weird on that space. But that's not really an indictment of the song so much as people are weird. I mean, I would personally be happy to listen to this and stick it in my
He would probably do a radio edit. You know, that's the thing. He'd probably do like a 3.5 minute. You know.
But like, I don't know. I don't really have any negative criticism because, like, you know, everything works. It's a good atmosphere, and I think the album art actually does fit as well. That sort of nighttime, slightly creepy, but also pretty as the lights are in the city kind of vibe thing works really well for this.
Cool.
It's definitely driving music.
Driving music is, yeah, I totally agree.
I mean, I don't really rave much anymore, so I can't say if I would rave to it or not. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, true.
I've never raved.
It's true. Nathaniel's never, but now you've been to a show. Now that you've done ILBC,
I've been to a show, but I've never raved.
He came and helped out at ILBC, and it was also his first show.
Aww.
Nathaniel kills it. We got Exlo up next.
Exlo, let's check it out.
Exlo, what did you want to
Yeah.
know anything specific or?
Looking for thoughts on the mix and a vibe check, but any and all feedback is welcome.
All right.
Every time I come home, you got me drinking all night alone, and my mind's in a haze. You got me wondering where you off to, 'cause I don't know what to do in the absence of you. The confusion in me won't let you leave. I need you here, but I want you to find peace. But I still don't know what to do. In the absence of you. Gotta ride out these lows. I've been dancing all night alone. I miss you. Was it all in my head? You got me thinking about all we went through, 'cause I don't know what to do in the absence of you. I wish we could go back to those nights. Oh, we've always said it'd never be the same. Was not good for you, don't know why you say To you I'll say, the compassion in me hopes you find peace. I need you here, but I know you've got to leave. And I might not know what to do, but I'll be just fine in the absence of you. In the absence of you.
All right, some really nice work, really good vibes. Speaking of vibe check, I mean, it is vibe for sure. But that synth, that lead synth right now, you gotta do something about that. That is like a really, really sharp, like you can hear when I'm talking over it and turn the mix down. I kind of did that on purpose because hopefully you can hear how much it's still kind of sticking out, even at a low volume. And that's a good way to test, like turn it down really low and just be like,
walk
whoa.
into the other room. There's lots of options for really testing your mixes. I mean, we've talked multiple times about SonarWorks.
Yeah,
Sound ID.
we're using SonarWorks actually right now to calibrate my speakers so that the imperfections of my room get compensated and what we're hearing is more flat.
Yeah, and
that helps a
it
lot.
really makes a huge difference in trusting your mixes if there is room correction involved.
Definitely.
Or open back cans, I think, is another place that I suggest everybody kind of go to, is get some open back cans and really, use those, and then also listening to tunes at really low volumes or walking into another room can be a really good way to kind of check your mixes. I think that both the sound and the pattern were something to think about for that kind of lead element at the drop. I think the sound had the intensity of the drop that I was looking for, but I think looking for a different patch there, and I think writing a different pattern there are the next steps that I would move into if it were my jam. I think I just want to speak to the vocals, and I think, one, you're doing a great job at recording them. I think the emotional intent was there. I think you were singing to the emotion most of the time, and that clarity was pretty good for me. And I think that you were mixing the vocal pretty well, or using a pretty nice mic, or a decent mic.
Yeah, where did those vocals come from? Did you record
Are those
them?
yours?
Or is it a sample? Or I did have one minor comment on the vocals, like with the lyrics. Something I've learned over the years is sometimes you really want to say something, but cadence-wise it doesn't completely fit. Like sometimes taking out a word or two and just rephrasing it can make it a lot catchier. And it's not even just about pop writing, it's about comfort and assonance, about flowing for the vocalist, because there were a couple moments where it seemed like the melody was being, or the cadence was being awkwardly forced in order to conform to the lyric that was being said.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm just going to make this up. This isn't I don't know exactly the song, but it's like if you were trying to say something like, oh, I've just really been thinking a lot about you, it's like that's what you wanted to say. That's awkward, right? That's too many kind of words. And if you just I'm thinking a lot about you, even that right away is better. So I think sometimes people get
or even just
thinking about you.
cut the I've off. Been thinking.
It really depends on the melody, but you see where I'm going with this is there's a lot of different ways sometimes to say something that might fit better in terms of catchiness. So and you don't always need everything to be catchy, but like I said, there were a couple moments where it felt like it was just a tiny bit of a mouthful for the vocalist, and it would have been better if a couple of words might have been cut off or rephrased.
But yeah, big up on the singing.
The singing itself was wonderful.
But I agree there. Working on cadence, switching out words, making it feel like it flows, especially in a chorus where you really want it to be hooky and you want people to walk away from the situation saying that over and over and over again in their head, because that's going to bring them back to your tune in Spotify and make you another third of a cent.
Another
mood. I mean, that's definitely a bit of the process for me that I usually spend a few hours just on trying to think up alternatives for cadencing and wordplay.
Yeah,
You don't have to
no.
be super literal sometimes either. You can you don't have to rhyme everything. You can kind of just bend the rules as long as it fits the melody that naturally works.
And something I always suggest is if you think that like it sounds wrong or stupid when you change it to fit the cadence, look at some of the lyrics to some really popular songs on paper. They look ridiculous, but
Oh,
when you
yeah.
sing them,
Oh.
it's totally different.
Yeah.
It's like, and I have some of the songs that I have that I know are like, earworms that stick in my head. The lyrics don't even totally always grammatically make sense, but they make sense for the phrase, the melody, and the cadence.
Absolutely.
It's a holistic, artistic license type of thing. So, yeah, and it also leaves things open to more interpretation by the listener, which sometimes is an important part of connecting with people. If it's too specific, if it's like, I've been thinking a lot about you, guy with the gray hair and the blue shorts and the shirt
Oh,
that
really?
says global climate
I've been thinking about you too.
Wow.
I'm thinking about you too. I'm thinking about you as
It's
well.
like, yeah, anybody else who could listen to that song might be like, for some reason, I'm not connecting with this imagery.
I'm not relating to this at all.
Is it is it the dad shorts?
Is it the dad shorts? Yeah, it's the dad shorts.
One more tip as well I have for vocal writing. Sometimes it's not necessarily the words you're trying to say, but where you're trying to place them. Like, you've got your verse stanza, and then maybe bleed things into your chorus or your build-ups or whatever else. The segments themselves are actually blurry. They don't actually literally have to be within the rigid parameters of each bar.
Totally, totally. You don't have to finish every thought exactly at
Right.
that end. Yeah.
And I would say my last thought too is like maybe give the instrumental a little more time to breathe too. I see a lot of vocal tunes, and this is the second one that I've seen where I've had that impression is that, but you can give 2 and 4 bar phrases in between to really make the vocals stand out. And sometimes you don't need to say as much. I mean, some of the best pop songs ever written are like 3 sentences
Yeah.
when you look at it. Like a lot of times what you need to speak to is the raw emotionality more than you need to finish a sentence, more than you need to tell a story. You need to stab, aim for the heart, stab, twist, 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 care a little bit less if it makes sense. If that,
Around
if that makes
the world, around the world.
Yeah.
right? It's
Case in point.
it's literally 3 words.
It's true. Speaking of words and lyrics, again with my killer segues, we got Salvati. And Salvati, when I say Disney pop music, that's usually referring to one of Salvati's magical adventures. I really appreciate you. A track called Vent Posts and Shooting Stars. Nathaniel, did they have any comments today?
Savati says he's feeling a bit insecure about putting this song on his next project. He feels like it's too long and drawn out. But it's also its own little journey. I promised my girlfriend I'd put it on because she likes it, but I don't know.
Aww.
You're the artist, you get to choose.
Wow. This is the gift that keeps on giving, this track. Very, very, very cool stuff. Salvati, as always, I'm really impressed with your originality, your sound design. Really loved every single part of that. That was interesting. That was dynamic. As usual, there's like a billion ideas. Like, what is happening right now?
Sounds like your last instrumental EP.
Oh, it's beautiful. Like cinematic again. Like I feel like I'm listening to the cue for a really long, intense scene.
I see somebody like making out for sure. I'm picturing somebody making out. It's so cute. It's adorable. I love that. One, I think your girlfriend's right. This one's pretty fire. I mean, the first place I would go is those chops kind of in the middle of the tune, where it kind of goes a little breakcore-y. I would keep those ducks or those gates just consistent, and I think that would deliver on the emotional intelligibility or the emotional intent on a dance floor, and you'd get a great response musically of there was a little less variation in there. I love IDM. I mean, that's part of the reason me and Chase started hanging out is because we both wanted to talk about Autechre in 1993. And so I love that. I love breakcore. I love IDM. But I think for this to translate, I think, some consistent ducking there would be good. I think I would have killed the road noise at the beginning, too. Tonally, it just felt really off kilter for me, and I think that piano at the beginning and at the end just spoke so well emotionally that it didn't need anything else.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's always got a lot of ideas in every track, and I think that like sometimes you could break them into two projects. Like that really buzzy bass that came in on the second part, I thought was a little bit distracting because you had such beautiful, warm sort of sound palette, and then that sort of was like jarring, and like it could be a different edit or a different mix. But yeah, the ending was so good. The beginning, like every part of it was really good, but maybe like overloaded almost.
Yeah, I think consistency at the drop if you want people to actually dance to it. Because Syndicat is that same person.
Yeah, that's
yeah. So at the drop, boom, no. I mean, for danceability, people like. Okay, so there's this book that I love called Hitmakers by one of the staff writers at The Atlantic, named Derek Thompson. And when it comes to stories and when it comes to music, people don't like new ideas that much. They really don't. And like what they like is the same story with just a tiny little twist.
Yeah.
And that applies, I think, to genres. You know what I mean? Where it's like people really like it when you stay in your genre pocket, and then because then they can identify it, and people like music to make sense to them.
People just like to identify and categorize things. Look at archetypes, personality tests, astrology. What type of sausage are you?
Algorithms.
Yeah, and I think especially for dance music, consistency is key, especially for 8 to 16 to even 32 bar segments if we're talking about prog or disco or new disco or anything in the trance category, and even in the house category. A lot of times there's minimal changes in a 32 bar structure for a house tune, and it's just like I switched the hats.
Yeah,
that's all I did. But that keeps a dance floor popping. You know what I mean? It's got to like have a little ear candy, maybe at 8 bar. I said ear candy, sorry. Maybe a little drum roll at 4 bar segments, 8 bar segments, and just slight little variations there, and then they'll just, like a lot of house structures, they'll just switch hats or drop a clap in. You know what I mean? And the 32 bars will be ostensibly the same thing with minimal changes.
Very similar, actually, in
Yeah.
this way to building a good DJ set. Like you can give people new stuff, but that's why like they'll always go for remixes and mashups and things that they know presented with a little twist of something new, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it is really like being innovative in music has to, if you want an audience, has to come with a compromise of giving them just a little bit of it at a time and a level that they can handle.
Yeah, and or if you want to be an IDM artist for eternity, just be prepared to be really poor. There's only one Autechre and there's only one Aphex Twin, and nobody's been able to make any money since.
Well, Natty, any other thoughts?
Maybe Richard Devine as a sound designer.
Yes. You're talking about consistency, but I also think there's a way to be consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, that
and in
works.
this case, I'm meaning
Yeah.
specifically about the intro, which is very unquantized and loose. And
Yeah.
then you have this sort of impact point where you go to mute, and then you reintroduce the piano, and then suddenly it's all on beat. And I really think you should keep that piano loose and free. And as you build up to your drop, where everything goes to being rigid, because like you ditch the piano entirely there, so it's already a natural point to sort of just not worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
Because you're focused on your pumping bass and your fun sound design.
Yeah.
So keep your piano loose until then. I think it will work better.
Yeah, I really think, you did an incredible job of moving from one emotional space into another, of a really gentle, organic piano into just an incredible amount of intensity that will work on a floor with a little bit of consistency after the drop. And I think that tune, could really send
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, totally agreed. Yeah, we still for anyone coming in, we love having new submissions. Just make sure that next week you come early because the queue fills up very fast once we start, and we got to make sure that our ears are only good for so long. So we want to make sure we listen to everyone's submissions. So yeah. Pro tip, if you sign in like the day after the last Feedback and Friends, the form will be empty and you can usually get up front. So, yes. And
Also, next week, sorry,
Go ahead.
I'm hosting it, and
Right.
I'm looking for one more person to join me.
Okay.
Hit me up in DMs.
Yep, of course.
And on that note, I'm going to take a pee break, but I'm going to listen to the tune as soon as I get back.
All right, cool. Go take your break. And we got Matthias X. Any specific requests, Natty? Matthias.
I was hoping to get feedback. Matthias, I think, would probably
Matthias? Okay. Sorry,
be.
Matthias.
Just a second.
Tomato.
I want to know
tomato.
what there might still be to do on this track. So, I mean, general feedback, I guess, would be the goal here.
Okay. General feedback it is. Another epic ending. I do love myself a good ending. Very nice. Closure. Yes. Very nice demo. I really like the atmospherics and the melodies about it. There's something about the drums that were not sort of pushing and dynamically kind of pushing and pulling is what I like to call it. Like they didn't seem to be breathing enough. It could be maybe either over compression or just needing to adjust the compression, but I felt like the atmospherics were really nice and large, and I wanted the drums to sort of drive that just a little bit more.
Yeah, I liked the kind of dark, kind of synth lead, bass lead. I thought the kind of higher end melodic structure could use a little more work. The just kind of like piano hits, and that. But melody, I think, is like one of the hardest things to pull off in tunes. Is to have something that really catches and keeps the ear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's a really hard thing to do. You know, as much as I hate Kenny G as an aesthetic, he's really good at melody, right? Like he knows just by doing it all the time. Like the guy plays like, when I watch a documentary on that dude, he plays like 6 hours a day.
Well, there's a documentary on Kenny G.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. He's a really nice guy. Also, it's just like he's really good at melodic structures. Like it's the same thing with like Nickelback, right? You know, like they're cringy and
Kenny G and Nickelback in the same sentence.
they're cringy at
I just
a
broke out
aesthetic
in
level.
Musical hives there.
You okay? It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. People actually like these outfits. I know you don't, but that doesn't make them bad. But what both these people are is really good at writing catchy songs that, you know.
Okay.
And Kenny G especially for melodic writing.
I had a second date once with a guy. The first date was mini golf. The second date was dinner, and he put on Kenny G.
Oh no!
There was no third date. That was as far.
Don't get me wrong. I will not have sex with somebody that consistently listens to Kenny G either. But I am saying, even though I don't like it, sometimes there are things redeeming in things you don't like.
Salvati thought we were talking about Kenny Beats. No, we were talking about Kenny G, the saxophone player.
Depeche Mode is my favorite.
Anyways, oh wow, I don't know.
Except Dreaming of You, that song can die in a fire.
Well, Kenny G, yeah, no, I actually would love to know about
I
the
think
secret life of Kenny G. I would.
He's so basic. It kind of hurts my feelings. But yeah, on an aesthetic level, he's totally cringe. He's also really good at writing melodic structures because that's all the guy does for like 6 hours a day.
Fair enough.
You know, 5 days a week, and has made himself an incredible amount of money.
Kenny
An incredible
G is
amount of
the
money.
king. Okay, Savi. All right.
I love Depeche Mode too.
So, we got Nathan Vandenberg next.
Yeah, what's up? What does Nathan
And
have to say?
This is an early idea. Also, some success news. The last track showed me, I'm assuming this means on the last time I hosted stream, got signed. So congratulations, Nathan.
Yay! Congratulations, Nathan.
We're very proud of you.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Also, it's really cool getting sneak peeks like that, isn't it?
All right. Let's go.
It's not too late, no, no, to set things straight, yeah. I'm smiling at you while you laughing at me. And lies from your lips, no, no. You make her let me in. You told me you love me, then broke my heart. So run away, yeah. Run away. There's no reason for you to pretend that you won't stay. There's no reason smiling at you while you laughing at me. Last feeling, you make her hit me all. You told me you love me, you broke my heart.
Really, really nice melodic work. I'm loving that, and like this is not my preferred genre usually, but I like the minimalism and the darkness of it. Like the aesthetic of it has all the qualities of genres that I do usually like. Like it's cool. It's crossing over for me because the things that I like are not really genre specific. It just tends to be that people follow stereotypes. So I think that what you've done, Nathan, is really cool. It's like you're making this genre, which you obviously like, but you're just putting really cool aesthetics on it, which are genre defying. Like it doesn't matter, like you have a nice clean space, you have your kick in a really great place. Like this is pleasurable for my ears to experience. The melodies are nice, the arrangement is good. Like minimalism is, I think the more experienced I get as a producer, the more I appreciate minimalism.
So I think the ARPs are wonderful, and I think the melodic structure is great. I think coming from a kind of trance, one of the things that makes trance great, I'm not a huge trance listener, but what trance and what I think techno and what I like the most out of the kind of things that like melodic or hypnotically speak is that like part of what makes those genres work is like the repetition and getting to a kind of hypnotic state, right? And I think this song does that really, really well. I think from a structural standpoint, there's a kind of tendency to wait to make the first drop at around 2 minutes. I'm consistently seeing folks when the first time that they drop out of the tune and into something that's a little bit less intense is right around the 2 minutes. And I think like overall, I want, for everybody that's still listening, my preference is probably to do like even a 4 or 2 or a small, like a bigger 8-bar, but even a small 2-bar kind of dropout somewhere earlier, somewhere in that 50-second to a minute 30-second range. I think the hats there was wonderful hat work in there. There's wonderful hi-hat work in there. I think all the elements were pocketed really, really well. And if you're signed, it shows. Good job.
Yeah,
I think that was good work.
Nathaniel.
I mean, I agree that maybe it could be a little bit changed up as it progresses. Right now it is a tad repetitive. But maybe the trick here isn't to just change the structure or introduce new elements, just post-process your elements you have differently. Maybe try adding vocoders or slightly different distortion patterns or things like that, because I think this sort of minimal trance doesn't benefit from massive change-ups.
Yeah, just, I would my go-to would be just those quick little 4-bar, 8-bar variations at the end of those phrases, dramatic, from a like kick, snare, or hat standpoint. Just do a quick hat run at the end of a 4-bar. Do like a three snare run at the end of another 8-bar segment. Like those little things, like keep the vibe consistent, but they give the brain something to kind of continue to latch onto. Because the point of these genres is hypnotism, right? Is the repetitiveness, and so it doesn't necessarily have to have that consistent pop structure,
right?
Where ear candy is a thing. This is about hypnotism. Techno is about hypnotism. Trance is about getting hypnotic and getting people into a state via things like repetition, right?
Yeah.
So you just want those changes little, and so that's why I think some drum rolls and some drum changes just at the end of 4 and our 8-bar phrases would be a really good look.
Fair enough. I don't know how to pronounce things that have no vowels in them. Natty, do you know how to say this artist's name? Next up,
I am Flav.
Flave, Fluv, Flo,
Flave.
Flu, Flu,
Flave.
Flu, Flu. All right, they said perfect. All right.
The thing is, they didn't say perfect to which one.
Did they have any specific feedback?
Yeah, what you
They
looking
would
for?
like us to focus on the mix and master.
All
Mix and
right.
master, right on it.
Get your ears ready, Chase.
Nice. That was some really nice, clean, like enjoyable. I felt like a lot of the elements of those were in a really nice pocket. No?
Yeah, I thought the chord sounds were. I thought everything was sitting in the right frequency spectrum for where it should be. I really liked the stabby kind of chord structure sounds. I thought the pattern might use a little bit of rework. I like to flip between the short note and the kind of longer note, but sometimes it like kind of threw me off from a dance floor perspective. For mix and master, I think a lot of things were sitting where they needed to be, but I don't know. I'm not the mix and master engineer. Chase is.
Yeah.
Yeah, nicely panned. I think the stereo field was great. Agreed, Chase.
Yeah, the kick, a lot of people talked about the kick and the clap just to beef them up a little bit, but I thought the cleanliness was really nice. Like on my monitors and like how precise they can be with the high end and stuff, it was very like, they didn't feel like there was anything resonant or sticking out in that way. So maybe you could beef up your kick and clap, maybe just a little saturation on a bus or just something subtle.
I liked where the
crazy.
clap. I liked where the claps sat. It's from the chat. I think the kick, either layer, filter, saturate somewhere in that space might be a decent idea. Sorry to cut you off, Natty.
No, you're fine. I was just going to read out a comment Chase left. He suggested putting a low pass filter on the kick to give it more of a body feeling rather than the transient of it being the focus, because right now it's a very clicky kick.
Somebody DMC championship, Natty's mouth. Yeah.
Also, something I would think about too is like getting just and moving of reverb on. Just because you have a lot of space in the tune getting a reverb on the clap and then moving how long you let the reverb come
Ooh.
back and forth would be a real...
Automating the reverb, and there's so many cool ways to
I love
automate
doing that.
reverb. Especially like a lot of the reverbs now, they have these like pitching as you go up and down, and they
Yeah.
make these cool spaces. So that could be a cool automation to like
I've
fill
been
the space in a
using
different way.
Valhalla
I love
shimmer
it. Yeah, shimmer is
and
great.
like moving shimmer all around on
Super
claps
massive
and
is
snare.
great too, and that's
Yeah.
free. So super
Maybe that'll
great.
be our plugin.
Yeah,
of the week.
have we talked about Supermassive before, Natty?
I think so.
We
But
might
it's
have.
good, so I mean, you can always talk about it twice.
We can always talk about it twice.
And it's free.
It is free.
Valhalla DSP.
It is free. Let's put on this next one from Taknam.
Yeah, Crystallizer. Crystallizer is Sound Toys, right?
Yeah, I
Yep.
don't have Crystallizer actually.
It's
I don't-
fun.
Yeah.
I like it. Slappy, I'm with you on that one, fam.
Nice. Yeah, we love plugins. Did Taknam have anything specific that they wanted to? No. All right. Let's
Nope.
check it out. When I used to live in San Francisco, my first housemate was a group of housemates. They were all into like analog synths and MPC and making like lo-fi West Coast hip hop. And my one roommate's favorite thing to say when he liked a track like this was, "I need a neck brace." So I think you could see us all like the head nod was going on. You know,
That
you got
slaps. Yeah.
that super slappy, broken, disjointed, but also cohesive feeling. I love this
Yeah.
vibe. I think you really
And
nailed that.
Yeah, I think that was right in the pocket between, going experimental bass and still having like jack and dance floor vibe. Like I thought that arrangement wise, sound design wise, I will put that up against Chi or Deserta or EPROM. Like that was really fantastic work. Mix. We need to talk about the mix.
You mean Saruta?
Saruta, is that?
I think that, yes.
Saruta? Why you
Saruta.
got to put a T in your name?
Saruta.
Saruta. You put a T in there, I'm gonna pronounce it.
No, I know what you mean though. It's like that almost like jagged compression envelopes. Like
Yeah.
that's a really good example of something we were talking about earlier, which is using compression to create rhythm and negative space. Because
Yeah.
it gives you that like bumpy, kind of
Great
uneven
compression
but-
work. Yeah, great side chain work. Getting ducky plucky. I think mix down, you need to, again, room correction, really kind of that first drop, the lead element came in real hot in the mids and the highs. So you really got to kind of watch. I know you want the intensity to be there and so the volume to be there, but you can definitely throw people for a loop on a floor if you come in hot on the mid highs and the highs. So I think, really working on kind of clarity in the bass end and, watching your volumes and really trusting your room, using room correction or, a mix and master engineer would be a great next step for you. But that was slapping.
Yeah.
That was a send.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is that like kind of saw lead bass sort of thing that comes in there. That was the only sound that I felt could use a little massaging to be as good as the rest of them. Because I love that like clonky snare sound. I love the Foley. I love like all the other sounds, but just that like that buzzy saw. I thought you could have just shaped it a tiny, tiny bit. Some little like amplitude modulation, a little bit of filtering, just to keep it with like the rest of those like gloomy, deep textural sounds. That one is just nitpicking because I really, really love this style. Oh, Nathaniel's back. Welcome back. Is your audio back? No, you're muted.
I missed you. Did you bring sandwiches? Did you bring snacks?
You're there you
No,
are.
sorry, I left my sandwiches at Greg's.
Greg
We-
with the sandwich.
Yeah, my Sony is getting very sad and tired. I overheated and died, which was very clever of it.
He's got this impressive like multi-mobile phone streaming setup though. I got to give it to you, Nathaniel. And your video always looks great.
So I've been trying to pinpoint why it keeps crashing, and I think it literally is just dying now at this point. So I'll have to switch to my main phone for this duty now.
Your other phone. All right,
I'm
so
due an upgrade again, I guess.
So-
But anyway, I really liked the vibes of that one as well. I'm sorry, I got distracted. But
Yeah.
hey, it broke after the song stopped, so I heard all the song without any interruption. I think the hard thing with these sort of tracks as well is when you're going so hard, sometimes you lose sight of the dynamics of the progression. Like, right now it kind of goes the same level of hard for the entire track. And it'd be nice, and then, like, there are tricks you can use to emphasize the high end, especially, I think, to give it that crunch. That would allow you to maintain a variance in your energy levels with this track. Especially, you want a final climax of some sort that really makes everyone hit the floor. And go.
says the guy who's never been to a party. Just saying. Sorry. You have a good imagination, Nathaniel.
I think the breakdown in the middle of that'll work for the genre that it's in. I feel pretty good about the arrangement there and the vibe. I think it was spot on. Again, arrangement, sound design wise, it's just the mix and master that I think you need to watch. Tack.
Yeah. But that's always going to be a challenge with as many crazy sounds as you have. Like,
You're right.
So you're doing good. I mean, it's,
Yeah, you're
it's
doing great.
close. It's
That
very,
was
very
slapping.
close. So that definitely slaps. We are almost done for the night. We just got a couple more. We're going to check out J Lotto. What does J Lotto have to say, Nathaniel?
Looking for feedback on the mixing and overall vibe.
All right.
Mixing and vibe.
Off in this bitch. Off in this bitch.
party get started, we gnarly and shit. The night is young, we all here to have us some fun. We set it off in this bitch, No rules, no holds bar. We take off, we go to Mars. Hands up, reach for the stars. I came to fuck up the party. I came to fuck up the party. I came to fuck up the party. I came to fuck up the off in this bitch. I came to fuck up the party. I came to fuck up the party. I came to fuck up the party.
I like that mysterious little arp. Like, definitely has some cool nostalgic samples going on. Definitely has a good groove to it. I think the bass wobbles. At sometimes they were a little out of time with the groove of the percussion.
Exactly. Yeah. So like either get in there and look at where those basses and where those wobs start. Absolutely.
Yeah, like there's just, you got to remember that like sometimes, whatever pocket you've created with the drums and the bass, it has to be the same pocket. Two different pockets, they are going to kind of confuse the ear, and people aren't going to be able to take the direction. They're, which way do I move? This way? That way, and there are ways to be sort of off pocket, but more intentionally. So I think that, I would go in and I would leave. I think your drum groove is great. So I think that should be the master, and the bass wobble should be more tweaked to be in time with that.
Yeah. So, and I don't know what DAW you're writing in, and sometimes you can just align the grooves if you're using groove structures in your clips. There's one way to do it, or just kind of go in, and if you're to the point where you're using audio or you've bounced to audio, kind of go in and see where those notes really start. It could have had to do with the ducking too, like maybe the kind of attack on the duck was set really far back, or the release. I would also maybe think on that bass line, pulling back the sustain or the release a little bit and making it a little tighter on the back side of that. On the backside of that sound. Sorry, I'm kind of cruising around the mic.
Yeah. Natty?
New.
Whoa.
I mean, from mix down, it's very, very close, I think. And
Agreed.
And the master is a good level as well. I mean, some might ask you to make it get it a little bit hotter, but it's not too quiet or anything weird like that, so that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is I don't really necessarily produce music like this, and I mean, I know you're not necessarily. Yeah, it's meant to have a bit of swagger, but I don't necessarily think that it's meant to be crazy with the bassline melodies or anything like that. So I mean, just because that'd be my preference for something like this doesn't mean it's appropriate,
You like producing this music. What do you think?
Yeah. I think the vibe is tight. I think this is going after dance floor blood. I love it. For the mix down, I didn't have anything that really stood out for me as like this is out of pocket. I thought most of the things were in the right frequency spectrums where they should be. I think it's just that kind of bass line was like a little out, be that groove wise or just like time groove or timing wise. So kind of go in on that bass line and kind of noodle with it, and I think this thing can be pretty smashing on a floor. And I like bass house. I try and write this stuff a decent amount.
Yeah, I think it's an easy transition to make if you're like a bass music glitch hop person. Like a bass house is like a lot of the same values, but just kind of a more straight beat.
Yeah,
but
totally.
like a lot of the fun sound design. And that's when I met you. I mean, I think I remember first time was when I came over to your house for dinner.
Yeah, with
Ruben Spector
and
Denver
Noah
bass.
Dodero and
Yes.
Noah Deep. Was it Ruben? Was Ruben there too?
I think I came over to your it was either Noah or Ruben.
It was
Denver
Noah.
bass squad. This was what, like 2009 maybe?
8, 9, 10.
My gosh. Old school Denver scene. What up? Well, I'm very honored that you came and hung out with us. We got one more track in the queue, and then we're going to check out a little bit of Crowdrock music. So let's check out Poppy Pear. Did they have any specific requests, Nathaniel?
Nope, just overall feedback, please.
All right.
TBS.
Feedback.
Looking for someone to take me deeper. I'm swimming in this shallow love. I need my freedom. Please be the reason to shake my demons. I've been searching, I've been needing, I've been reaching. So hold on, so strong, been waiting so long, but fate is so gone. There's levels to my love, there's levels to my, there's levels to my love, there's levels to my, there's levels to my love, there's levels to my, there's levels to my love, there's levels to my, there's levels to my soul, there's levels to my, there's levels to my soul, there's levels to my, there's levels to my soul, there's levels to my, there's levels to my soul, there's levels to my. I've been looking for someone to take me deeper. I'm swimming in this shallow love. I need my freedom. Please be the reason to shake my demons. I've been searching, I've been needing, I've been reaching. So hold on, so strong, been waiting so long, but fate is so gone. There's levels to my love, there's levels to my, there's levels to my love, there's levels to my, there's levels to my love, there's levels to my, there's levels to my love, there's levels to my, there's levels to my soul, there's levels to my, there's levels to my soul, there's levels to my, there's levels to my soul, there's levels to my, there's levels to my soul, there's levels to my.
That was a really fun kind of last cue track. I really liked that. Was that like the vibe of the vocals? I think was super good. At like lazy, but like I love the tone that you're getting there, and I love the attitude, the energy.
The
like,
emotionality was great in that vocal delivery. Same thing we talked about with the last vocal tune. You know, just in a couple little spaces, I would go back in, really cinch down on your audio, really go in and say, like, is this exactly where I want the vocal phrase to start? Or should I just take this word and slip it back or slip it forward just a little bit and see if you can really get that vocal sitting in the pocket that you want. But I think the emotionality and where the vocal was sitting in the mix was great. I think those hats were way too forward. You got to crank those hats down like 6 dB.
Very
at
sharp.
least. Snare was a little forward in the mix too. I think you're probably writing in a really soft room is my first guess, where like a lot of those things, or like who knows what the monitoring situation is. It's, and it varies so widely from room to room, from speaker to speaker. I think also from a musical standpoint, from a narrative standpoint, pulling a couple elements out to really let that vocal sink in, and really kind of letting the kick and snare and the vocal do a lot of the work for specific drops. I think, again, if you look at when drops happen, they're really simple, right? And I think a lot of times you also get the intelligibility, the kind of the clarity of the vocal performance and the vocal intent can be really clear if you just have a kick and a snare and maybe like a pad or an ARP operating. The ARP in that was pretty cool.
Agreed. Natty, what did you think? This is kind of in your stylistic vein, I think.
I mean, I really liked the atmosphere and the sort of passive aggressiveness of this track, because that's what it is. It's a very passive aggressive track. It's saying, I'm in a bad mood with you, but I'm not necessarily going to say it outright, but you're going to just see by the way I'm walking that I don't like you right now.
I have 2 daughters. That's never
don't like
happened.
you, Isha, right now.
Never.
That's what this is. Just joking.
No.
But anyway, I watch out for your high end specifically with this one.
Agreed.
You were speaking about monitoring. Well, you can't ever get an ideal monitoring environment without treatment, but there are also other ways to sort of tell whether you're really off with something. Now, my headphones emphasize high end, so I notice it, especially since my hearing up at that range is actually still really good. Lucky me. But also use your smartphone. Render out a copy and chuck it over to your phone, and if the high end is wrong, it'll distort really hard no matter the phone, because they're small speakers with limited dynamic range. And you can kind of test another thing as well. You can test your sub response, and I feel like your bass will just disappear on a phone. But your high end will also distort. So you end up with this imbalance at both ends of your spectrum, and it's just really obvious there. And the worse speaker you use as well, the better, because you can see how much of your intention is actually carrying across, because most consumers won't have high-end audiophile gear, and they won't have your setup either. So you're kind of getting at middle ground reference point. But yeah, definitely take a look at your high end. If you can, load up some sort of visual spectrum analyzer, and you'll end up seeing these really obvious peaks, mainly around the 8 to 9K range, I think, with this track. And then you can start using a dynamic EQ, using more DS and that kind of thing. Really clamp down and get it down to a really controlled measure, because you can get crispy high end, I think, especially around your hats. That's a nice sound in this context, but the rest of your track has to be really minimal in that area in response.
Agreed, very much. Yeah, it's a balance, and like too much highs and not enough to find lows, like you said, is going to make it a hot mess. So very wise words as usual. Thanks to everybody who submitted.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me, Natty. It's so nice to meet you.
Yeah,
It's lovely to meet you too.
We're really
have
excited.
a wonderful rest of your day.
And we're going to close with one of your songs. Do you want to give us a little spiel? And I'm going to post your socials in the chat and everything, but do you want to tell people kind of what might be up next for you? What's a little bit about this song? Anything you want to say?
I had a nice time writing it.
Aw.
What more can you ask for?
What more can you ask for?
Yeah, just remember that life is more than hustling, and remember to breathe,
All right.
I guess.
Life is more than hustling, and remember to breathe. Check out Crowdrock.
Try not to hyperventilate too much.
Check out their new projects, and thank you again for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day, too.
I'm being told to switch it up halfway through because there is a Chase Dobson remix, and Jason says Chase is better. All right, let's check it out. Oh, I see where this is going to go already. This has been another exciting episode of Feedback and Friends. Killer closing track from our special guest Crowdrock Chase Dobson remix. I just wanted to tell you a little bit before we close about some exciting things coming up. So, if you may or may not know, we had our first round of ILBC Bristol UK Challenge. The winner was Ashcat. Coming up, we have our next round in New York City at the She Knows Tech Summit on August 14th. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. There'll be some showcases and the competition. Those will be the first two rounds. The third round, low key, this is the unofficial announcement, but we're going to be doing it in collaboration with Audius and Underbelly of You Suck at Producing. So that's going to be super hype. It's going to be entirely online, that one. And then we have the finals coming up in Barcelona at the end of September. So we are super, super excited for everything. We would love if you would join us. So just tune in on the 14th if you can, even if you just put it in on the background. And I want to thank everybody who followed us, who supported, who's donated. Especially want to thank my darling Nathaniel, because Nathaniel is here every week. Nathaniel holds down EDMP Discord. If you are not on our Discord, we are here all the time, okay? We basically show you how to do things. We answer feedback requests. We do sound design advice, anything you want. So please join us on Discord. And Natty, any other announcements other than the fact that you're going to be doing this next week, because I'm going to be flying to New York to do the She Knows Tech Summit, which is full of master classes and panels and workshops and ILBC. So any other?
Well, I mean, obviously, please come join me next week. We've got some interesting guests on already based on people responding for this one, and I have a surprise guest that I will announce shortly. So it's going to be really fun. Also, if you do join come Discord, just say hi. I mean, I'm happy to chat about anything. So I mean, Gen Chat is there, and ping me. I'm fine with that. Also, and when it comes to the ILBC events, I will be hanging around in chat literally all night for all 3 of them, hopefully. So I mean, we can have a little bit of banter as we go there, and it'll be fun. Just this is a long-term engaging community idea thing going, and hopefully I can help you all have a good time too.
Amazing. Thank you again, and thanks to our special guest, Crowdrock, who had to dash out the door to do some dad stuff. But I know he appreciates it and appreciates and loves all of you, as do I. So we are going to do our usual awkward closer. Thank you so much, Nathaniel and everyone. Good night.